really quickly, if you are a 6-line person in this group and you're not in my group for 6 lines, please let me know. Now, I don't put as much energy into that container as I should. I will be honest about that up front. However, this time that has been made available to me to spend as I choose, I have chosen to dive back into some studying. And so I have been on a few human design topics, taking a deeper dive, and posted an audio link in the group for everyone who is a 6-line to listen to. It's from a series of lectures Ra did in 2005, and it's really, really pretty deep information about the role that 6-line plays. And when he talks about this, he's very specific that it is when you have the 6-line in your personality and not your design that you are truly impacted by what he discusses. So if you're a 6-2 or a 6-3 and it is your design, this lecture is phenomenal. It's absolutely positively for you. If you are a 3-6 or a 4-6 and you carry the 6-line in your body, your experience with that 6 energy is different. And so you can certainly listen to it. I'm absolutely not saying don't, but it doesn't apply to you in the same way because it's not something you're living out as your everyday way of being. So anyway, that's over there. If you are a 6-line and you are not in my group, let me know. I can add you in there. You can see the things that are there, listen to the lecture. That's something that's available to you. So I know I have been running a little late a couple of days, and so since no one is here and it's 10:02, and I did start a few minutes early, I'm going to go ahead and start. Again, on the replay, if you have questions, put them. I will be watching for them. I know yesterday I discovered that there was some level of issue in tagging me in those, so I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. But I'm watching for the comments. I'm responding to the comments as much as I can, and I'm enjoying some of the questions because they're really, really good questions, like about you, about your design, about how things are impacting you, and I really appreciate that. I do. So let's see. Let's get this right. The Splenic Center is when you are looking at your chart, the triangle at the bottom left. Okay? It is intuition, it is time, it is lymph nodes, it is immune system. And the intuition that is located in the spleen is survival-based intuition. The spleen operates strictly in the now. And when you get a gut feeling about something, I refer to it as a spidey sense. But when you get that feeling, it's usually immediate and it's short-lived, right? It's not lingering around. It's telling you right here and right now something's not right, and then the feeling's gone. And that's part of why it's easy to ignore it and go ahead and do something anyway and then regret it later. The spleen is also a feel-good center. So it's a fear center, it's a fear-good center, it's a whole lot of things. And we're going to get into the conversation of the play between defined and undefined spleens as well. So survival-based intuition can sometimes feel like fear. The spleen center is like a caveman. It's primal, it's instinctive. But certain fears can be healthy and beneficial, and I've talked about that before. Like being afraid to go into a dark alley at night is certainly an okay fear to have. When you have a lot of gates activated in your spleen, you can be prone to have a lot of different fears and not all of them beneficial. The good news is that the fears in the spleen exist in the moment. And although it can feel terrifying, it's energy. And when you push through them, especially when they feel illogical, you are able to dissipate that feeling pretty quickly, right? Remember, as we discuss human design, it is a system that is purely about energy. And sometimes when we experience energy, regardless of where the energy is, it isn't logical and it isn't personal, right? So that's why understanding how we take these energies in can help liberate us from being held victim or captive to energies and fears that we know really are not ours. The spleen center is also the center for time. And so people with defined spleens have a really easy time being in their moment. In fact, they have a hard time moving beyond the moment. The spleen is also the center for the immune system. The spleen is our oldest awareness center. It's ancient. It goes back before anything was standing up. It's that ancient. And when you look at the spleen, the thing to understand is that we see with it the context of our design and energy as the immune system, the body's laundry, the feel-good system, but it is also our basic survival mechanism. So every kind of fear that you can imagine is in the spleen, right? The fear of inadequacy, the fear of tomorrow, the fear of the past, the fear of time, the fear of failure, the fear of being responsible, the fear of the possibility of death. Every fear that we have is in the splenic system. They are there because they lead to intelligence and they lead to survival. They're not there for us to hold on to and respond to and stew in. They're there to help inform us. It is strategic intelligence. So like if you look at a body graph, or if you decide you're going to dive into your PHS, which is the primary health system, through the lens of human design, so what your body needs to thrive and be in its best environment and all of those kind of things, you are either right aligned or left aligned. And left alignment, part of that is strategic and splenic alignment, right? The left side is all strategic, and the spleen is part of the left alignment of your energy. If you have an open spleen center, you most likely will have a more sensitive immune system. It may seem like you get sick easily, but what it really means is not that you get sick so easily, but that you are far more sensitive to the subtle changes in your body, right? You notice almost immediately when something starts to feel off. You're likely sensitive to medications, need things in lower doses, may do better with natural or homeopathic remedies. It could be that you have a lower tolerance for alcohol or recreational drugs and experience those effects at a much lower rate of consumption. When you have an open spleen, it means you don't have consistent access to feel good energy. And people with open spleens like to be around people with defined spleens. When an open spleen person is with a defined spleen person, it makes the open spleen person feel nurtured. It makes them feel strong. It makes them feel secure. People with an open spleen often have a hard time. This is a theme in the not self with an open spleen have a hard time letting go. And when we say letting go, this is a person who is more likely to maybe be a hoarder, not be able to let go of possessions, have a harder time giving up addictions, find themselves in the wrong relationships, can't let go of grudges or negative feelings. So if you are an open spleen person and you're dating a defined spleen person, being with that person at an energetic level can make you feel really good. You're going to feel nurtured. You're going to feel protected when you're with them. But if that person doesn't treat you the way that you should be treated, you may have a hard time ending that relationship, because at an energetic level, your system enjoys the feeling that their energy is giving you. So I'm going to talk about this in the context of that type of dynamic and relationship simply as an example. This in no way is indicative of every relationship or every way that this necessarily evolves, but it will paint a good picture. So someone has an undefined spleen and they hold on to things that aren't good for them, whether or not that thing that's not good for them is going to give them a black eye, right? They would rather hold on to, at an energetic level, that inner feeling of security and suffer the consequences, because the conditioning is so deep that they feel lost without it and they're addicted to it. And we can take this even further. I'll finish this part of it and then we'll talk about how that plays out in childhood that then continues to show up in adulthood. So you're literally energetically kind of addicted to this feeling, and somebody says to you, hey, you need to leave that guy. He's not good for you. And you go, no, he makes me feel good. And we know that we hear this kind of story play out, right? And there are probably lots of undefined spleen people who are living with defined spleen people who are in situations that really aren't serving their highest good. And so when you think about this, let's say in the context of children, an infant is born and they're an open spleen and the mother has a defined spleen. There's an immediate bond and security in a different way. Good morning, Megan. There's an immediate bond and security. Oh, I don't have it pulled up over here. Thank you. Okay, so right now I'm talking about how the spleen operates and how open spleen people are conditioned to be literally energetically addicted to a defined spleen. And so I'm not saying this is the answer to everything, but it's a big piece of how this operates, right? So a mother has a baby and the baby has an open spleen and the mother has a defined spleen. And there's immediately, different than just the mother-child bond, an energetic connection. And that infant feels the energetic stability and security of being in the mother's presence. And so then you have a new mother who's exhausted and who needs her rest, and she wants to lay the baby down and go get a nap. And she does that, and she goes to get her nap, and she finds herself with a baby who is using all of its baby ways to get that feeling of security back. So you've got a baby who's crying and screaming and fussing, not because anything is wrong, but because at an energetic level, once you're out of that 6 feet of aura, they feel the separation of that spleen. And so consider that, especially when you're let's say this splenically defined mother with the open spleen child, over the first at least 5 years of that child's life, that is a consistent, they've developed a pattern of behavior around liking what that feeling gives them at an energetic level that they can't even explain and understand. And it develops a conditioning pattern. And so I want to get back into, understanding about the conditioning patterns that we have. Nobody set out to condition us because they didn't want us to be us. It's just a normal function of how conditioning happens, right? These children grow into adult people who still carry this desire to have that energy available to them so that they feel good. Okay? So that's how you can find yourself looking at and dealing with people who have open spleens, who continue to hold on to relationships that don't serve them in any way. Okay. All right, I got this. It's right over there now. It's right in front of me. I'm going to make sure it's right over there so I don't miss anything, because I can. So I just want to get the context for what an open spleen and a defined spleen do when they come together. So for truth in advertising, I am an open spleen person. Now I do have gate 50, 18, and 48 hanging gates, but my spleen is not defined. And I am in a relationship with someone who has a defined spleen, and I have talked about examples of really weird times when I can literally see our energetic dynamic playing out. I'm emotionally defined, he's not, he's splenically defined, I'm not, and I've seen it literally play out. It's weird. Okay? Yeah, get your husband, girl. You better. I cannot believe you are here and you don't have his chart. You need to be all up in his business. That's our whole job. That's our whole job. To manage the other people who don't have any clue about how to manage themselves. Megan. Okay, so back on track. Remember that an open center is unlimited in how it can experience the energy of that center. So I know Sophia had asked the other day, hey Sophia, when you catch this on replay, because you're not here now, but you had asked the other day, and it was about like intuition and things like that. So a lot of that is housed in the Splenic Center, right? But if you are open, that means you experience unlimited intuition, and it won't always be the same. And so one day it may be a gut feeling, another day it'll be an inner knowingness, you kind of just know. On another day you're going to maybe hear a guiding voice or have a dream, right? An open spleen does not have consistent access to intuitive energy. And so oftentimes people with open spleens think, oh, I don't have very much intuition, I don't have very much insight. They do. They absolutely do. But when you don't have it in a very defined, consistent way, and you're not leaning into understanding that and recognizing that when it comes to you in its variety, you think you don't have it, but it really is there. And it also is part and parcel that you will receive your intuition depending on who you're around, how they're defined. But if you are open, you are likely very deeply intuitive. So there it is. Defined spleen, intuitive. Undefined spleen, intuitive. Defined spleen knows exactly how they're intuitive. They experience it in that same pattern, because when you're defined, you're locked into the way that you get that energy. When you're undefined, you can just get that energy any old kind of way. So it's not that you're not getting it. Just pay a little more attention. Okay? The spleen is also the center for time. And it is common for people with open spleens to struggle with the concept of time. So, you know, many people are chronically late. And if you've had bad experiences with being late or compulsively early, I'm one of those compulsively early people because it makes it easier for me to manage those feelings. Okay? If you have a child with an undefined spleen, be kind to them. Lie to them about what time you need to leave. Give them a buffer to get ready. Because it's always a little more difficult for an open spleen person to rush. And I know that for me, personally, as an open spleen person, when I am in a situation where I feel the time crunch, the time pressure, I know we're running late, literally there's a knot for me. Like, I feel physically sick. Okay? Be kind to the open spleen. Be kind. And remember that openness is where we carry our wisdom. And once a person with an open spleen begins to understand their spleen and their splenic energy, they become far more wise about healing, more wise about intuition, and more wise about time. So then when we go to the flip of that and the defined spleen center, looking at your chart, bottom left side, triangle's brown, you're defined. You are designed to be in the moment. You make decisions in the moment. You are not someone who does a lot of long-range planning. You're somebody, Megan, depending on how your husband is defined, this will be interesting to know, who decides, oh, here's what we're going to do today. And everybody's going, wait, how are we supposed to do that? Yeah, nope, we're going on this trip. We're going to go overnight. We're going to go do that. And you pack them up and you go. Like, you decide it right now. You have intuitive insights in the moment. You know right now. Yes, no, right, wrong. A person with a defined spleen typically has a very strong immune system. But because it is so strong, it is easy for a defined spleen person to miss the first few signs of being not well, because you keep working, pushing through an illness, you're used to the splenic thing, you kind of go, oh, that's fine, I'll be fine. Defined spleen people are typically much more unwell by the time they address it than people with an open spleen. Yeah, you are in the moment. End of discussion, in the moment, right? Just know, especially if someone asks you, let's say somebody says, are you feeling good? Are you sure you're okay? Pay attention to them, because people outside of you are going to notice it and you've been passing it over. So always kind of go, let me do a double check if someone asks me if I feel well, because I know I'm a defined spleen and I can sometimes miss it. It doesn't mean they're right, but err on the side of caution of going, maybe I've just been kind of pushing through some stuff, right? It's important. Other people can notice that you're sick before you do. The intuition in a defined spleen speaks once and it's done. So if you are not listening to it, you're going to lose it, right? It's that immediate tingly, spidey sense, gut feeling thing when your spleen says yes or no in a moment. It's one of those things that I have noticed women specifically that I've been working with after 35 have a much stronger sense of their design in some very specific ways, right? So dealing with women, let's say over 40, over 50, who really get to that place where they know to listen to their spleen because they've had enough lessons in life that they know when they get that, that really means don't do that shit. But it took, years of life lessons to be in a place where they're finally trusting. It's a point that you get to in life where you keep saying to yourself, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew and I did it anyway, right? It's there. And we can shorten our learning curve, right? Because your spleen is survival based, it very frequently will communicate to you with fear. Fear of inadequacy, the fear of responsibility, the fear of imperfection, the fear that life is meaningless, the fear that you'll never realize your dreams. And fears can be paralyzing if you allow them to. But what I can promise you is fears are fleeting, they're not long lasting, and pushing through those feelings will dissipate them faster than anything else. So what do I mean by push them through? If you do any breathing techniques to calm your nervous system, if you do any meditation, if you go for a walk, maybe you do Krav Maga. I don't know what thing you'll need to do to work through that for you personally, but find something that will allow you to literally push through fear. And I'm suggesting it be physical because this is such a prehistoric part of our being, and it's like fight or flight, right? That you pick something physical, where with the solar plexus, like I'll color, I'll do I'll paint, right? But when you're dealing with pushing through splenic issues, let it be physical. I am doing the 90-day Joe meditations, and I talked about that in the very beginning. So to circle to that and then get back to the spleen, I don't know which thing I'm in with Leah. Oh, I'm in Ouroboros 3. And so I was in Ouroboros 2, so I returned to Ouroboros 3 as an alumni. And we were already supposed to be doing that. So I had been sort of kind of maybe doing that semi-regularly, right? But I did join the 90-day to have another level of accountability for me to be doing something I knew I was already supposed to be doing anyhow. And I should have been a good 30 days in, and I'm not. So there's that. Which one did you do last night? Please tell me. I've got some that I haven't checked the ones that are in the group because I have my own that I've purchased and downloaded. And then there's one that Hay House has on YouTube that I really, really like because it's 20 minutes. And sometimes I neglect to carve out 2 hours, for prepping and getting there and setting up and doing it and then being done. Yeah. It will help you sleep though. Although I wonder if, wild dreams before going, okay. We're going to talk about spleen, but I want to know about that too. Okay, so the evening is only 23 minutes. Okay. Yeah, I have meditations that I've purchased. I have downloads that are mine. So I was sticking with that, and then I had found a few weeks ago, you know, when I was supposed to already be doing the meditations every day. I'd found this one on YouTube, and it was like, it's 18 minutes. And it's kind of a redacted body parts in space-ish one. Anyway, so I've been doing that one. But yeah, Joe Dispenza meditations are amazing. Again, pushing through fear needs to be a physical response, right? So, when defined and undefined spleen centers meet, there are two major issues that come up: timing and connection. An undefined spleen has a very fluid sense of time and timing. And a defined spleen has a very strong sense of time, and it's, you know, right? And the defined spleen can struggle with the flowy nature of the undefined spleen. For a defined spleen person, it's now. And so, you know, I can talk about my relationship and, you know, him deciding he wants to do some shit, and he wants to do it like right now. Oh, we need to go through these boxes in the basement. I'm like right now? Can we do this shit later? And for him, it's, oh my goodness, we're going to do this. It needs to happen. Let's go. And I'm thinking, do we really have to do it right now? I mean, really? Like, it's just some boxes in the basement that I've been procrastinating about for a year. But do we really have to do it right now? Because, you know, we could do it later. So anyway, the other night I found myself in the basement going through these fucking boxes because he insisted that it be right now. Yes. And it is seemingly out of nowhere. It really is. Like, dude, it's like 10 o'clock at night. The fuck? Why we gotta go through these boxes right now? They've been here for a year. They'll be here tomorrow morning. We went through them damn boxes. I'm just saying. Okay. So, there's a story that I pulled. It is not my story. It's going to sound like my story. That's okay. Just to give an example. So my boyfriend has an undefined spleen and I have a defined spleen. And it's very common for my boyfriend to call me and tell me he'll be home in 20 minutes. But before he comes home, he's going to run a few errands. He's going to go to the cleaners, the grocery store, the bookstore, where he, you know, likes to lose time. And then he's picking up our daughter from school. With my defined spleen and inherent sense of timing, I know darn well he is not going to be home in 20 minutes. I need to go get her from school because it's easy to get frustrated with this behavior. It is not personal. The undefined spleen person just really doesn't understand that timing. Girl. So, you understand that you're the defined spleen person and I am going to sympathize with your husband, right? As long as we're clear. Just deciding all of a sudden in the middle of God knows what that something's got to happen right now. Okay. So, but keep in mind that the spleen is a feel-good center, right? And when a spleen is undefined, we like and seek out the energy to feel good, to feel safe, to feel healthy. That's important to us. When you as a parent or as a person or as an adult in whatever situation are dealing with children who maybe have separation anxiety, I would look at their design. I would see if they have undefined spleens. These are going to be kids who probably are more highly likely to have an undefined spleen with a splenically defined parent. Right? They're kids who are going to struggle with separation. And so dealing with that with compassion is a much better place to be, right? Dealing with that in a way that helps the undefined splenic person become okay with the separation and the loss of that feeling is a really important thing to learn. It feels like if it doesn't happen right now, it'll never happen, and we just snap because of it and doesn't get done. Chaos, no, so it feels like in our brain. Well, it only feels that way in your brain and not in ours. I just need you to know that. Because, whoo, seriously, I was so mad. I was so mad in the basement going through these fucking boxes. And they're all mine. They're literally basement full of boxes, because when I moved from my house to his, like, other than what I put in dresser drawers and whatever upstairs, like, boxes of my shit in the basement. And I've gone through some of it, and I was trying to go through, and then, like, I donated some stuff and that kind of thing, whatever. And I guess he got tired of my timing. Whatever. And then I'm down there going through the boxes thinking, he doesn't even know what stuff I want to keep. Why is he looking at my stuff? So yeah, I may have had some stuff disappear that I didn't want to disappear, but I don't have a choice. And now remember, so here's the fair thing to say. People with an open spleen hang on to shit a whole lot longer than they're supposed to, right? Truth in advertising. So it's probably some shit gone that doesn't need to be gone in my heart, but in all reality, it needed to go, and now it's gone. I mean, so as we're talking through this, like, this is like real life. This is what I'm living. My undefined spleen that likes its stuff. And I've gotten better at drawing my line on the things I'm going to keep, right? I have a collection of very, very sharp, stylish hats. They were my mother's, and if they disappear, he'll die. Like, that's a line I drew. The 55 pairs of shoes in the box in the basement, when I have 125 pairs of shoes up here in my bedroom, if that 55 pair of shoes disappears, I'm gonna be okay. But if my mother's hats disappear, it's gonna be hell to pay. Because I'm getting better at holding on to the right things, if that makes sense. I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress. And so you understanding what that's about can help you work with that energy, right? The struggle is real. That's what I can tell you, Megan. The struggle is real. But if you made a couple of pieces at a time go away, nothing really drastic, or if you made the case for those things helping someone really in need, that would help. Because you're going to have to connect it to what his spleen, the fear of, so right, and we'll get into that later. But there are ways to mitigate that. I'm not telling John the ways to mitigate it with me, because he don't need all of that information. But I will help you mitigate with him. Okay. So if you have a defined spleen, what you are really challenged to figure out is whether your intuition is giving you an important message about your survival, or you're just experiencing some energy that you need to push through, right? Because sometimes it's just giving you information, and sometimes it's giving you something you need to act on. And that's where you have to work on developing your discernment about what your spleen is trying to tell you, right? Don't let the fears of the spleen paralyze you into a state of inaction. Really lean into, right, trusting your intuition, listening to your body, resting and taking care of yourself, honoring your sense of time. Remember that everybody is not as fast as you, and you flow with universal timing, right? You just, I'm in the flow. I'm here. I'm now. We don't all work that way. And so recognizing that is really helpful. It helps dissipate some of the feelings you get behind them not responding in the same way that you do to your timing, right? And then being able to help them help you honor what's right for you. And browbeating people into doing stuff like going through boxes in the basement is not very nice, just for the record. Okay, so now that we've really talked about the spleen, let's talk about gate 50. So let me know, Megan, whether or not you have gate 50. Gate 50 is the center of all fear of the spleen. So just like gate 6 in the solar plexus, there's gate 50 in the spleen. Gate 50 is the gate of responsibility. Okay? So, what is the gate of responsibility about? Okay, so even though it's undefined, you know what that means. That means you just experience it in a variety of ways. That particular gate in that center is not consistent for you, but you still get it. Yes, so I am an undefined spleen with a defined gate 50. So how about that? In its most healthy expression, gate 50 is an awareness of our responsibility within each and every situation that we involve ourselves in. It's us knowing our role and what we're responsible for in it. We're aware of how our actions impact others, and we use our awareness as a tempering influence as we make our decisions, right? So gate 50 is about you knowing your role as the mom and in the household, and weighing all of that and your responsibility and how your actions impact others. That's really how this energy presents itself, right? If we're really emotionally unhealthy, or we're feeling really vulnerable or fearful, the shadow side of gate 50 emerges as us avoiding our responsibilities, either by refusing to acknowledge where our responsibilities are in a situation, or by fearing to take on any responsibility, by acting responsibility, or being over controlling, or correcting and taking way too much responsibility. So whenever that's out of whack, you've got something going on in your spleen, and it's in the home gate of the spleen, right? So when you do have gate 50 defined in your chart, you are prone to a bit of all of the above, right? As we all have the capacity for the full range of the human experience. And keep in mind, because it's the home of it, you probably get the full range when you're defined in that particular gate. If you are defined, right, and you have a defined spleen, even if you don't have the gate 50, you probably carry this kind of energy with you all of the time. And like for me, other people activate that in me, right? Other people activate it in you. but so recovering control freak is a splenic issue. And like, we don't have to dig into what was going on with you and why you're in the mode of recovering from that, but understand that this fear around responsibility is a pretty big thing, right? You felt responsible for your household, for whatever you felt like you were responsible for. And so you were trying to control absolutely everything that you felt was under your purview of responsibility. And that's how that energy can work when you are out of whack in your splenic center and you are not pushing through those fears and dealing with them and managing them. So really quickly, 7 gates in the spleen. And there are 7 fears as themes in the spleen. So I will list those fears really quickly so you can have an overview, because tomorrow we're going to talk about, which 3 are we talking about tomorrow? 48, 57, and 44. But here are the themes of the gates of the spleen that are the fear themes. Fear of responsibility, fear of the past, fear of the future, fear of inadequacy, fear of authority, fear of death or purpose, and fear of failure. So those are the overarching themes of fear through the gates of the spleen. We are specifically focusing on gate 50, which is the source of all fear, and it's the fear of responsibility. So do you have so your 50 was undefined. Okay, so let's walk through the lines. What do I have? I have 50 line 5, and so a 5 line is about universalization. It is about the 5 line is a theme of universalizing a message for the masses. So I'm here and I'm sharing, and I've got the spleen gate of responsibility in line 5. So let's talk about what that says, and then I'll get into the other lines, right? Gate 50 on line 5 brings more lessons around the importance of knowing when to ask for help. It's also about learning to navigate where and when to share your gifts. So much of living our design is learning to intuit and feel into timing and who the right people are to share with or learn from. It's about being responsible for where we direct our talents and how we grow them. And that is so like appropriate for me in this place right here and right now, and knowing that this was the right time for me to share this with the people. There we go. Jesus. This was the right timing for me to share this in the way that I'm sharing it, right? Because those of you that I'm impacting here are going to continue to impact the people that are around you. And as you shift your energy output appropriately, then it's going to impact the people around you. And then those people who touch other people are going to begin to shift their energy impact. I'm very excited about this. Don't laugh at my nose. Thank you. Thank you. Because, oh my God. Okay. So if you have gate 50, line 1, line 1 looks at the theme of responsibility and understanding our responsibilities within the communities we are part of. So Megan, all of these apply for you depending on how the energy hits you and who you're around. So let's just say we were together within, auric contact with each other. For you, I would turn your gate 50 switch on to line 5. But we also could look at solar or universal transits, astrological transits, and see what's getting turned on universally at any given point in time as well, right? So line 1 is gate 50, looking at our responsibilities within the communities that we're part of. Think friendships, family, relationships, colleagues. And through this line, we learn about our role and place within the community. We also learn to understand that respect is earned and not automatically given. And It takes time to grow skill sets. Like, skill sets aren't automatic, right? The first time we take on a responsibility of managing people or managing a project, it might not go as smoothly as the 5th or 50th time that we do it, right? We grow in our ability to take on responsibilities effectively, and we need to develop patience within ourselves as we learn. Line 2 is about aiming high but maintaining a healthy sense of what is possible and what is not. For example, let's say your dream car is a Land Rover. Line 2 helps make sure that you don't buy or lease one if you can't afford the payments. That's the line 2 is like, oh, I don't think we should do this because we can't pay that bill, right? Or maybe you would buy an older one or a less expensive one while saving up for your dream car, right? This gate line combo is all about having big dreams and working toward them, as opposed to expecting them to materialize overnight. And it's about taking responsibility for the steps that need to be taken to turn your dreams into reality. Gate 50 in line 3 is about taking responsibility for developing our skills. It's about eliminating a sense of entitlement. So let's say you're a naturally talented musician and you've always been able to pick out the major melody of music by ear on a piano, but now you might want to develop that skill. The gate is about taking the responsibility of honing your craft seriously, searching for the right teachers, searching for the right guidance, as well as about practicing and working on your scales and every piece of music on your own. You can dream about playing in Carnegie Hall, but you're going to recognize that it's going to take practice and guidance to get there, and you know it's unrealistic and irresponsible to expect perfection or excellence overnight. If you have gate 50 line 4, it's all about the lessons around how you use your skills and your gift. Make sure you're not overcommitting yourself in a way that's irresponsible. So let's say you can make a nice cake from a box. Don't commit to making somebody's super complex from scratch wedding cake with all the bells and whistles. Like, yeah, don't. Be realistic about where your skill set is and where your limitations are, and act in a way that is responsible and in alignment with your abilities. Okay? We talked about line 5, and then gate 50 on line 6 is, hold on, I have this, I cut my finger the other day, and now this is, that's annoying me. So I cut my finger the other day, but it's cut into the fingernail, which has this weird funky flap now. And the funky flap just got caught on something. That's what I get for moving too much. Okay. So, gate 50 line 6 is where it all comes together. Gate 50 line 6 is for the people who have honed all of their skills and natural talent, gotten guidance from the right teachers, learned where to share our gifts, but we also learned that there's no end to how much we can grow, and we remain committed to that growth. Yeah, it was painful. It was, and so I've been tending to it very gently, trying to keep it from catching on something or snagging on something as the part that I cut into grows out, right? That's my concern, is I don't want to like rip it deep. It doesn't hurt right now, but like managing it in a way, and it just caught on something, but managing it in a way that it can grow out and I can keep, you know, snipping off until we get to all of the nail part that was cut, grown out, and gone. Yeah. But let's just talk about, you know, sharpening our knives before we cut with them, and then they cut good. So I hope that this has really given a great perspective on how the spleen operates. If you're catching this on the replay, I feel like, Megan, I really feel like our conversation around these and the story sharing is going to really lend to people being able to learn and internalize this information in a way that makes so much more sense, right? Because I can share I was sharing my perspective of being an open spleen person, and you were sharing your perspective of being a defined spleen person, and the interactions we have and how we see it and kind of how it plays out in real life. But if there's nothing else you walk away from, fear, for the most part, for the lens of human design, is energetic. And fear isn't always bad. Sitting in it, ruminating in it, allowing it to control your actions is bad. Letting it inform you, thinking about whether or not it's teaching you something or you need to actually act, is what you need to be learning if you're defined. But understanding that it's an integral part of how we're processing, but we need to be in the process of processing and moving that energy and not sitting in it and sending it out through our emotional systems. So I really do. I hope that this is really helpful for people to get clear on how this works, right? Right? You know, on a personal note, and as I shared stories where, you know, you can find a lot of folks who are struggling in domestic violence situations, and I'm not saying this is the cause, but you will find a lot of this dynamic there. And it's something to be aware of as we are raising children who are open in their spleen, to help them learn how to deal with and process fear, and deal with and process this feeling of needing to feel secure, and what we can impart to them, teach them, and provide them with, so that they are not searching externally for a sense of security, right? That's where we can impact this. That's where we can win. Because conditioning is happening whether we intend to do it or not. It's just a function of how community, families, society operates. It's really that simple. So that's all for this class. As always, please, one more time, leave your questions. I'm going to come back and answer them. I promise you that I'm going to come back and answer them. This is important to me because it is what I feel like, I think I've said this before, so now, you know, broken record. My offering to the collective right now is to help as many of you as I can get really good at being in integrity with your emotions and your fears in a way that's really going to resonate out to our communities and the people around us. And the more of us that can be responsible with that, the quicker we can temper the emotions of everything going on around us in the world today. So that's it. Thank you for joining me. Megan, you have made this fantastic. I appreciate you being here because it's, number one, it's so much easier when I know there's somebody here. Number two, this dialogue just for me made this so much more fun. And I think that's it. That's it. I will talk to you guys soon. Happy Thursday, and you know, be safe out there. Love your people. Enjoy life. We're here to be living it, y'all. And whether you're living it at work or you're living it at home because you've been quarantined, live it. It's all we're here for. Love you guys. Bye.